Hey everybody, I want to start by reading 2 Corinthians verse 12, or chapter 12, verse 10, 8 through 10. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest in me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." My name is Missy Hansen, and our family has been coming to Substance for about 6 years. Jake and I have 4 kids. Our oldest is 21 right now, and we have a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 15-year-old. Each of our kids is very different. We've had to learn parenting styles from all different approaches because of the differences in their personalities. We've faced a lot of difficulties with each individual child. Challenges included, and not limited to, stubborn rebellion, sibling rivalry, unforgiveness, bitterness, pornography, eating disorders, drug abuse, screen addiction. And every time we deal with one of these issues with our kids, we got to the point of feeling completely powerless, stripped down, and just empty. And I always say that parenting is one of the hardest things that you can do. It's not supposed to be easy. God's planned for those challenges to draw us closer to himself. When we're weak, that's when God can step in as our strength. We can delight in our weaknesses because they strip us of pride, and it causes us to sink our roots deeper into him alone as our source of hope and peace and courage. Each of these challenges transformed Jake and I as much as, if not more, than our children. So as we talk about parenting, I want you to know that I didn't do it right. I did most everything wrong, and this is so that God gets all the credit. I want you to know that every single one of our kids is serving the Lord now, wholeheartedly, knowing him more and more each day. But this is not because of anything that Jake and I have done right. It's not because of any of our great wisdom that we applied. It was all because of Christ's mercy and his faithfulness. But at the same time that we went through the struggles, we had no way of knowing how our situation would turn out. Our minds would jump to worst case scenarios and those horrible conclusions. This stress would always bring out the worst in our marriage. See, God, in his infinite wisdom, put 2 opposites together. Jake is steadfast and loyal and strong and stubborn. I, on the other hand, am flexible to a fault. And I'm always looking for the fastest way to smooth things over and get back to harmony. We would approach every challenge from opposite directions. I was always pushing him to be gentler, and he was always pushing me to be tougher. These clashes were harder on us than the problems that we were actually facing with our kids. But our weakness always drew us to our knees. So I was begging God to change my husband and my kids, but God was so faithful. Every time one of these struggles came to light, I would be stressing. I'd be awake in the middle of the night crying, leaning against godly friends on the phone and mentors to support us in prayer. And then God would be there when I got to the end of myself. And God kept reminding me that the person that needed to change the most here was me. My identity was shifting from self-reliant to God-reliant, from people-pleasing to God-pleasing, from faith in a system to faith in the God who listens to my prayers. It's pretty rare that miracles happen all at once. God's miracles come most often in increments. If you look for them, you'll find them. Just that steadfast flow of miracles every day. It's just enough for every single new day. So just a few examples of the incremental miracles that God was sending our way through these difficult situations in our lives. Our oldest, he was struggling in school, struggling to find godly friends, and we prayed tirelessly for him. My introverted son bravely tried out youth group after youth group. My husband and I had grown up in the same Wisconsin town as Peter and Carolyn, and we knew of this church. We knew of Substance. So we started attending in hopes to encourage Tim to connect with some of the kids in the youth group. And I'll never forget the night that Tim came home from youth group and told us that he had found his people. For the first time in his life, he knew that he was fully accepted into his peer group. Our next child is a girl, and as she headed into teen years, we experienced relationships, just a rift in our relationship with her. But God is so faithful, and he provided a youth group leader for her that connected with her. This was a young woman that our daughter trusted, and she spoke truth and life into our girl that she couldn't receive from us at the time. And I remember one Saturday night where I was awake in the middle of the night begging God to release one of my kids from spiritual entanglements that he'd gotten himself into. And when we got to church the next day, guess what the message was focused on? That exact topic that my child needed freedom from. Pastor Peter had actually prepared an entire sermon series for that very topic. And my kids were listening, all of them. This was the kind of place where a whole family would get in the car after church and talk about the sermon. This was a church where the pastors didn't just know Jake and my names, they knew our kids' names as well. And I knew that the pastors were praying, and I knew that they cared. Every one of our kids was invited into ministry and appreciated for their gifts. They are finding their purposes as they are planted in the house of God. Our family just came out of a really dark season with one of our kids where Jake and I felt so completely and utterly helpless. All of the parenting that we'd been using, all those methods were failing. Our pride and our self-confidence was broken. There was a lot of clashing between our kids, clashing between us and our kids, and clashes between Jake and I as parents behind closed doors. But God has taught me that he redeems all things, even conflicts. He has purposes in our pain that we can't understand at the time. And being a person who loves harmony, God was teaching me that God can use conflict to bring his deeper and more meaningful life. At this time, he miraculously provided Jake and I with access to Parenting on Purpose and Connected Family Curriculum. And these two resources were lifesavers for our family. And then we met Matt and Amanda Carrera. Unbeknownst to us, they had been praying with our child on Sunday mornings. They didn't know that he was connected to us, and we didn't know that he was seeking them out after the church service for prayer. But God had put this kid so much on Matt's heart throughout the week. He was praying for him continually. And then when we went up for prayer one Sunday, we just happened to get connected with the Carreras, and God whispered to our hearts that we needed to make space for their parenting class. And through these three resources, God started restoring hope into our family. He helped Jake and I to get on the same page. As Pastor Peter says, We don't need to see eye to eye to walk hand in hand. Jake and I were on mission together once again. We were praying together. We still don't have a perfect family, but as God brings us through every single trial, we have more fuel for the fires of our faith. Every new season brings new struggles, and we know where to turn. We go to prayer, we go to our Bible study, and we invite in our family and our friends to seek miracles with us. God doesn't always give us the miracle cures that we're looking for at the exact moment when we're asking for them, but He provides Himself. His presence is enough to sustain us through anything. So in conclusion, I just want to encourage anyone who's in the midst of parenting struggles that if you are feeling at your lowest, at your weakest, that this is the very place where God can shine through the strongest. I want my testimony to encourage you to stay on your knees and lean into the strength of Jesus. Lean into your Bible study. Lean into your church friends and your small group and your godly mom friends. But most of all, lean into Jesus. Ask Him what He's teaching you in this struggle. And know that if you don't hear any answer at all, He's giving you the very best, Himself.